Good morning, world. I am Judy, your web based therapist, making therapy accessible and convenient for our clients in Florida and New York, and for sharing information worldwide. As you know, we've been having all sorts of very interesting conversation. And last time we were on, I mentioned that I had more stuff planned. And one of the stuff that I had planned is this evening, where we have some awesome people, wonderful people who are here to share in a conversation about some of the stuff that we've been talking about. And yeah, let me just do a quick intro. We have the wonderful, my favorite principal. Yes, he is my favorite principal, Clobens Dierjus, who is, and we have Aquanet Thompson, who is a branch manager for, that's one of my bank, and I keep always forgetting Seacoast Bank. It is my bank. I do have accounts there, or an account. James Green is the director of community services for Palm Beach County, and of course, I know we're doing this on first name basis, but I have to say Dr. Eve Salomon Fernandez because she was the first. She was the first. And now I know a whole bunch of PhDs, but when she was the first. So Dr. Eve Salomon Fernandez, who is the president of Greenfield Community College.
Well, thank you, Dr. Judy Cineas.
But you're the original, my dear. You are the original. So today, the conversation I wanted to have is about climbing the ladder as a minority. Over the last few months, we've been talking about everything diversity. We've been talking about everything Black Lives Matter and this, that, and the other. But one of the issues that we've been experiencing that I've had issues with, that I've noticed, is this whole idea of the cards being stacked against us and how people have responded to it. Yes, the cards may be stacked differently. Yes, there are things that we go through, that we're experiencing, that are not fair. But I want to talk about, how do we play this hand? Because it's not just, hey, the cards are stacked against us, but that doesn't mean that that's not permission or a reason to just get up and say, okay, I'm going to walk away from the table. So that is the conversation I wanted to have today. What do you guys think?
Sounds great.
Everyone is muted. Okay. Well, one of the first things that I've talked about, that I've seen, that I've heard, is the idea of a lot of us, because the cards are stacked against us, fall back and step back and wait for opportunities to come to them. How do you, what do you guys say? How do you, how do we get people to not do that?
I'll begin. I can't speak for other people. I'm typically in a position where I'm really focused on creating more opportunities for people. That's the nature of the work that I do. And I think by just focusing on that, which is something that I'm really passionate about, I think people recognize the work that you do, and the opportunities come. So I don't have a lot of time to lament about missed opportunities. I certainly am keenly focused on creating more opportunities for individuals, and as a result of being effective at doing that, there are natural opportunities that come my way. I'm a steward of the taxpayer dollar, so I'm really, really intentional about making sure that dollars are invested the way that I want my dollars to be invested. And so I want outcomes. I want to be effective at the work that I do, and I want to be able to tell you how effective the work is and what the return on your investment is. And so, but I do recognize that opportunities come with the opportunities are sometimes created for some. Others are creating it for them, especially if their networks are larger, or if they are exposed to to a lot more than other people are, but my job primarily is to create a network, is to create exposure, to create opportunities for the less fortunate, and by doing that, opportunities are created for me as well.
Well, one of the things that I've known Eve since high school, so one of the things that I always remember whenever I think about is Regine telling me how this girl, she was a girl then, she's grown Miss President, Madam President now, but she was a girl then. This girl was waking at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, getting through books and catching up on current events and doing that. And to me, that felt like that whole, how we talk about half of success is showing up or I don't know what the the right percentage is, but part of 90% is showing up and 95 is showing up ready. Like, how do we do that? Or is there something that we need to do to help our community learn to do that? Because a lot of people are just sitting back and waiting for the opportunities. But the other thing I feel is that a lot of us are not taking the time to get ready or be ready for opportunities. What advice can you share?
Yeah, I would agree with everything that James said before. And I think of this biblical passage, God helps those who help themselves. And to me, it's always been about learning how much do you know, because knowledge is something that can never be taken away from you. A lot can be taken away from you, but what exists up there cannot be taken away. So, yes, I still wake up between 3 and 4 every morning and read up current events and amass as much knowledge as I can and process it and understand it. And as James said, building your network. And that's been really helpful to me. And I think, there are people who lack the social capital to know how to go about building networks, how to go about gaining that knowledge, how to go about understanding how systems work. So part of it, I don't want to blame the victim, but when we look at our country, we see there is a lot of wealth that is built along economic lines, and some of these things go back centuries before. So I think it's understanding, one, that people may not know, and because there have been so many generations of not knowing, sometimes it creates a level of paralysis. And so I think it is incumbent upon us who've made it to say, hey, how can I help you? Here are some avenues. And if people still don't want to put in the effort, then that's on you. But I think for me, I feel that sense of stewardship that James was talking about, that it's incumbent upon me to help those whom I can help, who may not have the opportunities. And then, the 95%, sweat equity, you got to put that in, because there's no substitute for that.
Okay.
I mean, I would definitely echo everything that's been said. What I would add is that when you sit and wait, it's no longer an opportunity, right? I think it's just a handout at that point, right? Anything that comes to you, if you just sit and wait for it, it's a handout. It's not an opportunity. And opportunities are sought, and so you really have to go out and arm yourself with the knowledge. There's a lot of things, as Eva has said, that are available to all of us, really. But it's a matter of going out there and finding it. Malcolm X said, you want to hide something from black folks, hide it in a book. And it's such a sad thing to think about that we for the most part, there's a lot of people who just sit and wait, and just blames everyone else for the lack of opportunities. And so it's really, I definitely want to echo that in the sense that since I am an educator, it is my business to kind of try to make sure that I instill as much as possible, as much of as I've amassed myself, to kind of impart that on others to make sure that they blaze their own trail.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I echo everyone. It's really important, and I would say also perseverance too. Right, is an important important thing, because it's a marathon. It's not a race, right? And especially during these times of COVID, me particularly, I took this time to really just expand my knowledge. And I got 2 executive certificates knocked out, right, during COVID, right? And just took, reading more books and just continue educating myself and elevating myself, and encouraging others to do so. So that's very important. And yeah, it's not going to be given to you. You just can't sit and wait, right, for that handout or whatnot. You have to continue to work hard, and folks that look like us, we have to put in double the work, right?
Mhm.
And and just continue to put ourselves out there and build our network, right? And build a diverse network, because that's really important.
Okay, since you guys have mentioned that, and it is one of the questions in the chat, let me say quick, right quick. Let me say hi, and hi, Anik. My sister gets on me for acknowledging her and saying that she's my sister, but she likes it. Hi, Anik, and hi, Fifi. Hi, Ima. Hi, Francisca. One of the questions she asked is, it's one that she says it's one thing to meet people, but how do you keep the right people, or the people you want in your circle?
Mm. Hmm. I could only speak for myself. I just have, being from the Caribbean, we have this saying, like, it's in my spirit, like, my spirit takes them. That's what we say. So I just feel, when I meet someone, I know if we'll connect or not, basically, right? And, I'll go up to them. Hey, how are you doing? Let's connect. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's go have coffee, right? And start out from there, and hey, if they respond back, I'm like, awesome, let's continue this relationship and what have you. And then 2, if you're going to run into the same people everywhere you go, right? Your network is so small. So, like, for example, James, I see James all over the place. Right? We know the same people, but him and I, we haven't connected yet, but we know of each other, and we run in the same circle, right? But if there's anything that James would need, they would say, hey, reach out to Aquanet, and I'm there, to help James, right? Or vice versa. So you just continue just having to stay face and just, hello, small talk, and don't be afraid, just don't be afraid. They're not going to bite you, no one's they're not going to bite, but it's just, it takes time. And then you'll see that, hey, they know so-and-so, right? So, oh my gosh, I didn't know Aquanet knows Dr. Judy, right? And, Dr. Judy, will call me, hey, you met my sister, right? Oh my gosh, really? That's your sister? Okay, let me give her a call. So I think it's just different for everybody, but just don't be afraid, So, and don't be afraid to reach out to someone to say, hey, can you help me connect with this person? I just met them.
That has been, for me, that has been one of those things. That was a question that I planned on getting to at some point, because it is a thing where it does feel, a lot of times it feels like we weren't taught this, especially being Haitian, that your parents did not give you friends, and you're not allowed to have friends because they did not give you friends. So now getting into this as an adult, Clovis is laughing, I'm
You know how it is.
so,
But at the end of the day, sorry to cut you off. At the end of the day, I think when we become adults and we start connecting with people and we expanding our circles, one of my friends love to say, "Your network is your net worth," right?
yeah.
But one thing that your parents used to say is that, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are, right?
Mhm.
And so I think the same mindset can be applied to the friends that you make, or the people you connect with. And you always have to reevaluate friendships, right? Or your connections. What value does this person bring to your circle, to your network, your net worth? Is this person giving you a leg up so to speak, or is there a symbiotic relationship where you guys are feeding off of each other, but also giving each other the support necessary? So that's how I see it, using
But how do you
that
find
Asian
them?
mindset.
How do you find them? Because that's the issue. That's the thing I find that a lot of young professionals in our community are experiencing now, because we never had that. We did not have that that training of, hey, this is how you build a network.
Yeah.
We had our friends from school, but now we're adults and we need to have an actual network that can help us grow. So how do you got how, like, what advice do you have? How do you get to your, how do you build your network? I mean,
Oh, go ahead, James.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I think the same way that I met you, Doc. So, we met at the Young Professionals.
mm-hmm.
Remember the session when Graylin was president. But so there are groups, lots of groups out there where you're able to meet and network with people, professional groups, community organizing groups, and so I think you just really need to figure out what it is that you're looking to do and
Mm-hmm.
creative at finding the groups. I mean, we have more tools now than we ever have. You can go to Eventbrite or Facebook or wherever and link to groups. You can even do a search based on what you're looking for. So I think just being intentional and understanding what you're looking for is the start. But if you can't find any, then start one, right? There are a lot of young professionals I know that they've started their own networking group and have done very well and built their network, and it's allowed them to grow their business. And so for me, in my line of work, it comes naturally because we're looking for community partners and we're looking to partner with uh, grassroots organizations and to make sure that we're listening to what the community concerns are. But I'm also a business owner, and as a business owner, there are certainly opportunities to network and to grow, your network in a way that allows more opportunities for you and for those that you encounter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is, well, first of all, let me just say, Clobins, it sounds like you had friends, because I didn't have friends. They used to tell me, "M'pa voyo l'école pour aller faire zami, m'voyo l'école pour aller étudier." So,
That's it.
clearly you had more wiggle room than I did. But I mean, everything
One of
that's
the
been said.
biases.
Lucky you. One of the things that I think is it's about that mutually reciprocal relationship, right? Some people you will gel with on a personal level, others you will gel with on a professional level. And it's been willing to extend yourself in service of someone else. And that the next time they'll be willing to extend themselves in your service, for your benefit. And I think just being a giving person, being open to mentoring, being open to doing these kinds of sessions that people feel like you are approachable. I can come and ask you, can you give me some advice on this? Can you connect me to someone who might do this? And in the same way, I might go to someone else and say, hey, I'm wondering if you can help me with this. And if there's anything I can do to support you, please don't hesitate to let me know. And I think a lot of it is about attitude and being willing to also step out of your comfort zone. What does it mean to be in that discomfort zone and that zone of discomfort, and for you to ask a question, make a new connection, make a new friend, and to say, I don't know, but it appears that you know a lot more about this topic. Can you help me with that? So I think it's being able to have that humility also to say, I don't know, and you know it, and I'm going to work up the courage to ask you for help.
I love to talk when I'm muted. One of the things, Michelle's here, James. One of the things that Michelle mentioned was using LinkedIn groups and researching organizations and things like that. Hi, Grayland. Grayland finally showed up. Grayland finally showed up. And Grayland says, "What's up, James?" And Max says, Max says hi. Let's see. Fifi says, "Are we creating a, are we creating an avenue to mentor others?" Is what I think that's the question. Yeah, I think that's the question. And that is one of those things that again, another thing I plan to talk about at some point later, but since they're bringing it up, I know that a lot of the time, one of the things that we, especially in our community, we lack is that understanding and access to mentorship. I'm guessing all of you had mentors at some point. Yeah, nay.
We still have mentors.
I still have mentors.
Yeah.
True. So, but that's one of those relationships that, again, we're not taught. What should people be doing? Where do people look for mentors? How do people get mentors? I mean, to me, I feel it to be an important part of growing, an important part of getting that next of becoming a leader or just growing professionally. So what thoughts, what ideas, what can you share?
Well, for me, I have mentors within the workplace and outside of the workplace, right? Who I highly respect. For some, I just went up to them and said, "Hey, I respect you highly, and would love for you to be my mentor." I just came out and asked, right? And then others, it just happened naturally. For example, I am a graduate. Well, I haven't graduated yet. Leadership Palm Beach County, class of 2020, and we were automatically assigned mentors, right? And the mentor that was assigned to me, I knew her, had a great relationship, and I already considered her a mentor. So some it happens naturally, some you're placed with, and in others, for me, you just ask them if you just feel that you have that connection and you all have developed this relationship, so that's for me. And you're never too old to have a mentor. It's important, and I highly respect my elders, even if they're older or younger from me. I think we can learn a lot from, anyone and what have you. So that's just me. That's me, how I.
And the goal also is to have multiple mentors, as someone said before, right? You look at people in your circle, you look at people who you would like to be in your circle, and you look at qualities and characteristics rather that they have and you aspire to have, and you seek to learn as much from them as possible. Some mentors are not necessarily carrying that label officially, right? They're just mentoring you, not knowing that they're actually mentoring you, because you're just soaking up everything you can from them. But I think to what Aquanet said, it's really important to be bold enough to, just like we talked about earlier about opportunities. Eve, I really love this thing that you've been talking about, and I've been thinking about this for a long time. Can I pick your brain? Can we talk about this, right? Really having this discourse that leads to this friendship, leads to this learning relationship. I mean, it's just something that happens over time, right? You just have to put yourself out there. That's how it's happened for me.
Exactly. And you need more than one mentor. I mean, not everyone will know not one person will know everything about everything. So to have people that you can consult around different things, and you will have people who are busy executives who say, I'm not sure I can be a mentor to you, but if you ever need anything, call me, shoot me an email. And then you have other people that you may see once a month and you develop a different kind of relationship with them. But at the end of the day, you have a network of people on whom you can rely for counsel, for nourishing your mind. People who will say, read this book, read that book, attend this conference, attend that conference. And other people you'll say, hey, I have a leadership challenge. Can you help me with this? And they can help you with that. Or, and also the idea of having a sponsor, right? A sponsor is different from a mentor. A mentor will give you advice. A sponsor is someone who's going to open doors for you and get opportunities for you. So someone who'll say, oh, in my company, I know that Aquanet is really awesome. She does really great work. She's consistent. And we're talking about promoting or having a new position. I would recommend Aqua because I know she is consistent. And while this job may be a little bit of a stretch for her, I know that she is committed. She's a hard worker and she's not afraid to take risks and she will be able to deliver. So while she may not be the complete package, what she's lacking, she will make up for in enthusiasm and hard work. So that is a sponsor. So it's important to have mentors, also important to have sponsors.
I think I've been very fortunate, even since a teenager, to be surrounded by mentors, and for the most part, I utilize those relationships. I mean, I sit down, we might hang out in a happy hour or do whatever, just talking about all types of things, and so I found it to be invaluable, especially with a lot of the things that are happening around me that are relevant to the direction, decisions that I have to make. Uh, it's been really nice to have a wide individual to catch up with and to be able to get their advice on, particularly those who have been through similar experiences, or those who are well respected within the community and can provide the type of guidance that I need in order to move forward. So that's been very helpful. I happen to be in the greatest fraternity on the face of this earth, and it just happens to be the best, not just because of the mission and the beliefs, but also because we have a number of prominent individuals who have really uh, done a lot for the community and in terms of their upward mobility in the corporate world. So, and they've been very open and willing to provide any type of advice and assistance that I've needed over the years. And so that has been a huge part of my personal and professional growth, is having a mentor. And as a result, I try to give back and mentor others.
Now, one of the other things that as you guys are talking about growing and mentoring, one of the things that I find that we sometimes I don't see as much, or at least it's not readily available, is access for growth opportunities within our community, because it's there. And like you and I, because of our connections, because of where we are, know, hey, I can call James and he'll point me there. But I find that a lot of people who don't know James may not have access. And I know we've had all these there are so many different books and all these professional development things that talk about business, but not necessarily from the standpoint of some of our stuff. One of the books, and I shared that I remember a few years ago, was a big thing, was Lean In, when that was the Bible of, oh, this is what every woman needs to read, which I found it was good. It was a good book, but it didn't address some of our stuff. So how do you guys find stuff like that address both leadership and growth and development and the stuff that we experience? Or how do you find them?
What do you mean by stuff?
books, trainings, workshops. Just I found that there's a lot of broad professional development. There are a lot of books out there, but it's a lot of the books are coming from the perspective of a white female, which may not always reflect our what we're experiencing, or the perspective of a white man, which does not really, although they have good things in them, they have things that we can learn, but they don't fully address some of what we need. Am I making sense?
You are, and I think what you're saying is there are a lot of resources that are written from the perspective of the now majority, right, and the majority in power of the privilege. Um, and I think it's one of those things where it's also it's hard, and I find that having sister circles or circles of other professionals who are like me, who have similar experiences, where you can talk openly about what we experience, and I find that to be really a place to lament, and also a well where you can draw joy from, so supporting one another, having that shared experience, and knowing that these things are really happening, and these are our experiences, and they're difficult to navigate sometimes, but how do we sustain ourselves in the long haul, for the long haul, and how do we lean on other people where you don't have to explain a whole lot, and they get it because they've had similar experiences.
Awesome. Anyone else want to share anything? No?
No, it's 100% correct. For me, I have, mentors that look like me, right? And they share their experiences that they have been through, specifically in the banking industry, right? Because that's an industry that, hey, we're really the minority, and there's a struggle for us to, succeed and, level up there. So they have helped me tremendously. And also, yes, those sister circles, like, I'm a member of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, right? So, and we have these conversations. I could call up my coalition sister, and we could talk through this. So it's good to have those networks and those circles that you can, have those conversations and have that support system, basically.
I've been saying I want to join this organization since I don't even know how, probably since I moved here and discovered that it existed. And I'll research it, and I'll get information, and then I'll move on to something else and never really follow through with it. But now that I know you are a part of it, maybe now they're cool and I might actually follow through.
We have 2 chapters, West Palm Beach chapter, which I'm a member of, and then there's one in South County. So yes, we'll talk about it after.
Yeah.
There goes that networking thing again.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about something less fun. Eve started talking about, having our sister circles where we can share and discuss things that we're experiencing. Now, the rest of the world has discovered microaggressions, and that is now the buzzword. But I know it's one of those things that has pushed people away from being at the table, stepping up, and when we don't, because many of us don't have the humility, we don't have the tools to handle that, but we know we experience it. How do you guys, or how have you managed it? What can you share with someone as far as what can you share with us as far as how people can manage it, or how you've managed it? Nothing? Yes.
That's a tough one, right? I think for me, I've adopted this idea that I'm comfortable making people feel uncomfortable for the right reasons, Calling somebody on something right away is something that that I've made my practice, and it took me a while to get to that, right? People will say little things here and there that they know will push a button of some sort, and so I think just calling people out. I didn't like that. That didn't sound right to me. What did you mean by that? I think for me, that's been my approach.
And
Cool.
for me, it didn't start out that way, right? But then I'm like, no, right? And I started calling them out, and even calling out senior management, right? And being brave and even going to their boss and say, hey, this is not right. It's not okay. And I would like to talk about it. So, and just having a conversation, right? And to me, education is important, okay? Because then you hear, oh, I didn't know that, that was wrong to say or whatever, what have you. But whatever, even if they did or didn't, but just to be vocal about it and let them know that it's not right, it's not okay, and just calling them out. So, it's very important. I've been through lots of things, right? I'm sure we all have, but you just have to speak up. So, and yeah, you just have to speak up. We could talk about this all night.
Michelle,
We could talk about this all night.
Michelle says use radical candor. I know lately it's been a thing, and it's the new buzzword that everyone is talking about. But I know one of the issues is that it's one of those things where many of us experience, but a lot of the time, because we don't talk about it, we experience it silently because we're thinking, oh, this is just happening to me, so maybe I should keep, or what am I doing? What about me is making this happen to me, and don't realize that it's a whole thing that happens not just to us. So cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I was going to say that in my role is, I don't know if it's necessarily microaggressions that are targeted or aimed towards me, but I certainly hear, um, people that I interact with that have a certain worldview or mindset, but different experiences, saying things that um, are questionable. And when I hear that, then you know, it's very difficult for me to remain silent, especially if they're a person of influence or um, someone that can actually impact the lives of other people in a major way. So they're in a position of power. And my approach has always been, you know, I'm not a barking dog. Well, I'm a barking cue dog, but not a, I'm not rah, rah, rah. That's not my approach. I usually take a diplomatic approach and ask questions, and then I'll challenge what they have to say, or challenge them to think about a different perspective, and engage in very lively debate, which I like debate when it comes to those types of issues, especially when I know that I can potentially introduce new information that could lead to a paradigm shift or lead to transformational learning. You know, tonight we're doing something on racial wealth gap simulation, right? And just talking about how the racial wealth gap was created by a number of policies, federal policies, among others, here in America. A lot of new information that will be introduced to individuals that they didn't know existed. And so when you start hearing things in terms like affirmative action, and you start hearing about firms that to certain people take on a negative connotation, with this new information, there might be a paradigm shift, because now they can see how there were policy affirmative action, didn't just start with Black folks. Like, it existed well before, even when this country started in a major way. All right. And so it that new information just challenges the mindsets and the mental models that are out there, and it leads to for most people who think rationally and are not just have this parochial view about the way that they approach life, but it leaves them thinking. And just like it did for me when I went through Racial Equity Institute training or other trainings that led me to see things from a different light or lens, it leads me to have a different attitude about things and to behave differently, because I believe differently. And so it's not so much about microaggressions with towards me, or really a passive way of trying to approach racism. For me, it's about what I notice and hear other people say, and challenging their thought process by introducing information that they probably weren't aware of, that could potentially shift the way that they think about things.
Yeah, what I would add to that is you also have to pick your battles wisely. And we are going to experience these kinds of to have these experiences. Unfortunately, the world is not an equitable, fair place. And you have to be able to think about it from the perspective, as Aqua was saying, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And yes, you can be radically candid. There are times for that. And there are times when you really think, okay, in the grand scheme of things, how can I be most helpful to myself and most helpful to others? Is this the kind of thing that I call out? Or do I pick a different battle? Right. So it's important to contextualize it and figure out what is the bigger goal and how can you be most effective in the long run. That would be the only thing I would add to the comments already made.
Awesome. So let's talk about, as you get up there, as people start getting into leadership, and as you guys right now are in the leadership of your organizations, how do you manage the expectations? Because one of the things, again, from our communities, one of the things that sometimes people don't quite understand is what the role is of the president of the college. Does that mean I can call Eve and my kid is in? Or if I call Aqua, does that mean my loan is approved? That kind of stuff. So how do you guys manage expectations of just what people expect from you, as well as what people from outside your organization, as well as people within the organization? How do you guys manage that?
I think Aqua should start with the loan.
I'm gonna call Aqua and my loan's approved. You're muted. You're muted.
I wish. I wish I had my wand to say you're approved. Oh goodness.
So how do you manage that kind of stuff? Because I know as you get into leadership positions, people start with their misunderstandings, have expectations of you. Or maybe the expectation is, you're the bank president, so now you're making loads of money, so I can borrow that $10,000 from you that I plan on repaying never.
You're Bank of America, and I'm calling from my home country, from the homeland.
There you go.
Milk of honey. You're the ATM machine.
Yes.
Oh gosh. For me, it's just listening, right? Listening, and the tone, but listening is of the utmost importance. And staying calm, right? And just speaking slowly and not using a lot of jargon that, the individual might not understand. because it is hard. So in my field, yes, so folks get really upset, curse, say names. I've been called racial epithets, yes, right? But it's just how I react, right? But staying calm, that's the deal breaker for me. Staying calm, always have a smile on my face, even if I have to call the police to escort them out or what have you. But it's just listening and remaining calm and trying to talk through it. And if we can't speak through it like adults, then, you know, I'd have to call law enforcement to help me escort the individual out or, you know, stop the conversation right then and there. But it's just remaining calm and listening. Those are the two main things for me within my field, at least I can say. So.
What about what?
Yeah, I think with me, I have high expectations of myself, and I recognize, you know, where I am in my role, and I know who my stakeholders are. I know what's expected of me, and I expect, you know, being in this role for others to hold me accountable. So the first thing that I do is I try to surround myself with people who are not afraid to tell me that I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, or people who are not afraid to tell me that, you know, my stuff doesn't stink, right? So you need people around you that will tell you the truth and will tell you when you're not living up to the expectations. And to balance, you know, the expectations, you should have a quality picture of what it is that you're expected to do. And that quality picture, at least for me, doesn't just come from me. It comes from, um, you know, my community. It comes from the people that I report to. It comes from the direction that, in my case, the board sets. And so, um, you know, I'm always pushing harder to create opportunities for others to be able to move towards greater economic independence. Number one, but on the other hand, you know, it has to be a balanced approach. For me, I understand the structural nature that exists in equities that we see. And I understand the fish in the lake. You know the analogy about, you know, if you go to a lake, see one fish floating, you know, most people think there's something wrong with the fish. But if you go to a lake and there are thousands of fish floating belly up dead, you know, it's not the fish, it's the lake. It's something wrong with the water, so to speak. Most of the work that I'm engaged in, and I see you guys are freezing. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys still hear me? Antoinette, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can? Okay. So, so most of the work that I'm engaged in, I look at as lake work, you know, looking at systems and policies and structures that keep people poor and keep people down. But, you know, there has to be some, you know, you have to treat the fish. You have to support the fish. You know, we have 60,000 people, kids living in poverty. You know, in a county where there are 71,000 millionaire households and over 40 billionaires. We have 60,000 kids who are living in abject poverty. How is that acceptable, right? So, you know, we can sit there and say that it's the system, it's the system, it's the system. And I'm more inclined to lean that way. And that because I see it and I understand it. I understand that, you know, families make a marginal increase and they lose a lot of support benefits like housing and childcare and food and healthcare. So they turn the job down because why would you take a 10 cent, 20 cent pay raise when you're gonna, at the end of the day, it's gonna be harder for you. So I understand the systems and the structures that keep people poor, but I also have to balance that with personal responsibility and making sure that they need an accountability partner as well. And so there's a balanced approach that you can take to lift as you climb, and there's a balanced approach that you can take as you create opportunities, and be very empathetic with their situation in order to uh, um, teach them to fish rather than to give them the fish, so to speak. And so that is my world, and how I look at people's expectations of me and balance it. I try to communicate um, you know effectively in terms of my role and what I understand my role to be, and listen to others. Um, but I also, understand that I need, at the truest essence of who I am, and what I do, I want to be able to be effective in creating opportunities so that people can live a dignified life and they can be a contributor to our economy and to our society and the community.
I will always be the first one to say that James is the absolute personification. Why are you smiling? I didn't even say it yet. James is the personification of my brother's keeper. That I know for sure. Like if I get to give that award 10 times, he gets like 8.5 of them. Because I know some other cool people too, but he gets 8.5. But as we're talking about that, what about one of the issues that I know we face is like creating that balance between wanting to create seats at the table. Like once you're in there and you're in that leadership, creating seats or bringing others along with you, and managing what the willingness of others to come, or because not everyone is as willing to put in the work that you put in to get where you are. So how do we balance that, or is there a way to balance that? Yeah, y'all look quiet.
Well, I think a lot of people want the fast track, right? Well, it's also the end of the day. So a lot of people want the fast track. They don't realize how much effort it takes to get to where you are.
Yeah.
And I think, as we said before, it's years of work and overcoming a lot of other obstacles and hurdles to get to where we are. And I think at times some folks may not know how much effort, how much hard work, how much sweat equity went into it. And how many hardships, even when you get there, you have to overcome. So sometimes it's a dose of reality for some, and other times it's, you have to say to people, if you think it's so easy, go ahead and do it yourself. I'm not standing in your way. Go ahead and do it.
I'd have to echo that. I mean, I think obviously I'm in my line of work. It's not as prevalent as as if you were working in the banking industry, where people felt like there were more opportunities that were connected to money as much. But there are definitely people who think that who really overlook what it took to get there. So I would definitely echo that sentiment. That at the end of the day, the level of work that you've put into yourself, or you've invested into yourself to climb the ladder, for lack of a better term, is not. It's you don't carry it on your sleeves, right? People don't automatically see it, right? So it's a matter of, and I guess that's something that you can only discover through conversations, or through building a relationship with someone who's sort of, quote unquote, made it, to really ask, like, how did you get there? And I know that a lot of times people do skip that part and just want to, can you put me on? Because you're the boss now, right?
And I could say in my industry, it's tough climbing up the ladder. I've been in banking for over 20 years, and I still have yet to see a Black president, right? or an EVP. You know, for us minorities, it's especially Black employees, very, very, very difficult. And that's something that we struggle with every day. And, you know, it's a good old boys club. And we just continue just to take little steps to climb up that ladder, right? And we just have to put in the double work, right, to get noticed, because we continually get overlooked, right, for roles. And there's a lot of us that leave one institution for the next to get that opportunity, you know, and we shouldn't have to play that game. So that's something that we're fighting for internally. And I could say that for a lot of people that look like me and a lot of banking institutions. So that's something that we continually do and continue to fight for. I myself, for the bankers that are behind me, right? And for the bankers who are in front of me who are of color, they're fighting for me. I'm fighting for those who are coming up behind me. So that's something we're going to continue to struggle with, right? For years to come. Because, you know, I can't say, this sounds wrong, but looking back in the history of banking, right? We were never in the picture, right? They didn't want us to be a part of, you know, we were never there, okay? We were never there. So it's real tough, really, really, really tough. So I'm just trying to stay positive and not negative, but it's not all that's cracked up to be, you know, for us minorities in the banking industry.
But
It's
you know,
gotten better.
this environment, the environment that we're currently in, where racism and racial injustice is just so in everybody's face, especially uh, uh, white people. Um, they're starting to take a look. They're starting to notice what we've been saying this entire time about the difficulty in a number of different spaces. I think about some people I know who are working with, you know, corporate 100, 500 uh, companies who are figuring out ways to uh, really create opportunities for themselves, and they're working 10 times harder and not always getting the looks that other people get. And they're sometimes it's discouraging, but now some of those Fortune 100 or 500 companies are actually looking at creating structures within their organization to begin to look at those things. And that's something that I'm seeing more of that now than I've seen at any point in the past, where these, you know, the Bank of Americas or and other large corporations are either sending their staff to racial equity trainings, or they're creating diversity positions within the corporation. And some, you know, might do it just to check the box, so to speak. We know that happens. But oftentimes, if you can put the right person in those roles, they can begin to look at uh, things from a more equitable lens. Who are you hiring? Who are you firing? Who are you promoting within your organization? Like, how does your organizational, how do your employees mirror the demographics of the community that you serve? Who's on your board? What does your board diversity look like? How are you spending your dollars? Like, they're really taking a different look at uh, you know, ways to make things more equitable and to break up the gravy train that currently exists, because we all know that it does. And you know, that's in the corporate world. Obviously, in government, you know, we've been very successful. I really love our current board of county commissioners, and you know, they've done it. I think just a tremendous job, and our county administrative of really recognizing and being committed to creating an environment that's more equitable. Obviously, there's always work to do, but the leadership that we have with our commissioners, you know, they were able to usher through a disparity study. They were able to, you know, they just voted to create an Office of Equity, Diversion, and Inclusion at a government, county government level. They're sending staff through, Racial Equity Institute trainings. There's so much happening that, you look 10 years ago, it just wasn't happening as much as fast. And that's happening not just within county government, but within the school district, within various municipalities. And it takes leadership. It takes bold and disruptive leadership sometimes to make those things happen. And so kudos to leaders like Commissioner Mac Bernard and others who have kicked down the door and really stood firm at trying to create opportunities for those who wouldn't have it otherwise.
Okay, so if anybody didn't get this face, Mac just won't stop coming to these things. Mac was at the first one. Mac's wife was at the second. Mac's sister was at the third. I finally was Bernard Free at the fourth discussion. And Senator Bobby Powell decided to do a whole 10-minute speech on Mac. And we were this close. But it's okay. Hi, Mac. Oh, here's the question I have. With things the way they are, we know that we haven't, many of us have not had that role, not necessarily, I guess I don't want to say role model, but that example. How do you find the motivation? How do you find the drive to push when, we talk about students needing to see Black teachers or teachers who look like them in the classroom, but when there hasn't been too much of that, how do you find the motivation to keep going or to keep pushing and do what you do without having that, example of, hey, this is what it looks like? Nobody?
I mean, I think it goes back to your purpose, right? So what do you do this for? Right? Where's that intrinsic motivation coming from? Right? What's the trigger? So I think for me, seeing education as my life's work, seeing education as something that I grew up, I grew into, I grew up um, within it, with a group of people who really made it their life's work. As I found my niche, it became more and more evident that this is the work I was meant to do, and seeing the impact that it's had on the communities in which I've worked. It's that, I think for me that's where it lies, right? Seeing those young people who were in my classroom 20 years ago who are now functioning adults, right? Who reach out and show me the things that they've been able to accomplish, and walking into a building. Obviously, I can't do that now with our school being remote, but being in that realm where you're impacting lives, young lives that will someday become those responsible citizens in our communities who will turn things around is that's motivation for me. That's where I find it.
No, anyone else? Okay. Well, we are getting up into that hour, and I have my standing question. I do have a standing question that everyone always have to answer. And is there anything else that you guys wanted to share? Anything we didn't address that you wanted, like any burning thoughts, advice, thing that you wanted to share before I ask my most important question?
I'll share something.
Go ahead.
I think when it comes to really being able to accomplish the goals that you set out to accomplish personally or professionally, is, we talked about, the people that you associate with. But, one of the things that has been most helpful for me is having a spouse that's extremely supportive. And so, that has just been tremendous, having someone like Dr. Michelle Green, who has always been there to support me. She's my, I'm her biggest fan. She's my biggest fan, and she's just, a tremendous individual altogether. And so, uh, to be able to have someone next to you that's, is cheering you on and really trying to push you forward has been extremely, extremely valuable to me. And if you don't have that person, finding that person, I can tell you that it is more than you can ask for. So I just wanted to add that in as well, because I knew the me before, and I know the me after, and I recognize that is such an important part. So.
Good job, Michelle.
No, that's definitely a given, right? So not without a support system, and especially being a parent, father of two, without my wife kind of holding down the fort most of the time while I'm away at conferences or doing building my network, I don't think this climbing the ladder would even be possible, right? So I commend you on that, James, and I definitely echo that sentiment.
Likewise, likewise. My husband runs the house, he runs everything else. And I'm so grateful to have him as my spouse and my life partner.
I have to say the same before my husband kills me. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I like it. I like it. Actually, before I ask my last question, I have one thing I want to ask. And I'm going to make it a combined question. And I would love it if all of you guys could, you don't all have to, but I would love it if you can. How do you handle being the only person who looks like you in the room? And what is your best advice for networking?
So I'm in a profession that often puts me in a room with, fortunately, with a lot of colleagues that look like me in New York City, and so I'm maybe that's the anomaly here, right? So I'm grateful to have had opportunities to be in a room with colleagues that look like me, that share ideas. In the communities in which I've worked, there've been especially with the small school movement that started under Mike Bloomberg, a lot of small schools were created intentionally to start building that equity in the system, in such a large system. And so I've often been in rooms filled with folks that look just like me, and we've been able to exchange ideas and really think through how we can best serve our communities. So I guess I'm the outlier here. I
Okay.
might be.
Still, what's your best networking advice?
Best networking advice is I think we've said it multiple times already, is to not be afraid to put yourself out there. And after a conversation, especially when you think about the previous question, right? If you sat in a room and you've had a rich conversation about something, you're bound to hear something from somebody that really resonated with you that you want to follow up with, right? So that's one of the ways for me that I've been, and it wasn't easy. It was something that I had to work on myself to build my network, and start really connecting with people, like-minded individuals or people who push my thinking, because you don't want to stay in that box either.
Yeah, I would say for me, I'm at the complete opposite end of where Clobens is. Where I live, it is 1% Black and 8% people of color. It is the whitest county in Massachusetts. So it's hard. I'm almost always the only person of color, the only Black person, the only immigrant, and all of the intersectionalities, the only woman immigrant, person for whom English is not the first language, and all of that. Yeah, it's hard not having peers and not having people who readily understand I am very lucky that I have made some really awesome friends where I live, and people who can be part of my support system. But yeah, you're always aware of the fact that you stick out like a sore thumb. Um, and my best advice around networking is the same thing as Cleben's, don't be afraid to step into that zone of discomfort and take a risk. Usually you have much more to lose by not taking that risk than by taking that risk.
Yeah, my advice would be to look at it.
James, hold on, James. You got Michelle smiling in the chats.
Yeah, to not look at it so much as a challenge, but an opportunity. I mean, you stand out. Think about that. If you're going to stand out, you don't even have to make yourself stand out. You will. And so, I also think about, and I use this example quite a bit. Like, you ever notice when you go out and you buy a new car or something like that, and as soon as you get on the road, what's the first thing you start noticing, right? Or
all the cars that look like yours.
When you're driving, right? And part of that is because you are centered and you're aware of 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 what you're driving, and you begin to notice other cars around you. It's the same when it comes to knowing what it is that you want from life, right? When you're centered and you really know what you want from life and what you're aiming for, then all of those people that you interact with can possibly connect and help you to move forward in some type of way. But if you're not aware of what you want and what you need, then you're not intentional about making those connections. And so my advice would be for people to know and to be certain about what they're passionate about and what they want and the goals that they want to achieve, and to be intentional about making the connections to make that happen. And sometimes, and that's one. But also, and this kind of goes back to uh, the question about microaggressions and things of that nature. Sometimes you get in a room and people will make, say, have dog whistles or make comments, right, that almost to infer that you're inferior as an individual because you're Black. And so I think for people that have experienced that uh, or are afraid to encounter that, I think my advice would be to know your history and know who you are as a people. like to know that you were the ones that taught them how to build ships and how to, about math and argue. To know your history didn't start in this country, and to know the value that you brought to this world, and to really be comfortable in knowing who you are. If you don't know your history, and if you're not knowledgeable about an array of things, then sometimes that is the reason why you might be a little bit more timid moving and stepping to individuals. But when you are knowledgeable about those things, you're excited to engage in conversation with whomever, because you know that you'll have information to share, and if you don't, then you'll be able to learn information. So be thirsty for and hungry for information, and ready to learn in every encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo everyone. And the main thing is to be confident, right? Whether you're networking or you're sitting in a boardroom with executives, right? And they're all white men, and you're the only Black woman in the room. So that has happened to me, right? But, you hold your head up high and, and just do your thing, right? And remain confident, poised, and just do what you got to do, So, but just stay confident, and you just got to do what you got to do. It's going to come naturally. It's hard for others, but just go with it. I like to say, build a bridge and get over it, right? So that's my just build a bridge and go and go do it. So yeah. And hey, it wasn't like that in the beginning, but you learned, right? And what to do, what to say. I'm grateful that my parents, I have a unique name. hey, I'm Aquanet. I say, like the hairspray? Yes, like the hairspray. So, okay. And white people have a lot of Aquanet hairspray under their sink, okay? And it's a given. So they get so excited when you're like, oh my God, where are you from? So that's, that's the icebreaker there. I use my name as the icebreaker. So you'll find different little things here and there, but just remain confident and have fun, smile. So everything will be all right. Like Bob Marley says.
I got a question.
Yeah.
How you know what's under these people's sink?
They tell me. They get excited and they tell me that, some they had it under their sink, some still do. They're like, oh my God, they sell it at CVS. They get so excited when they hear my name. Then they ask me, how do I spell it? So I thank my parents for giving me Aquanet. It's a great icebreaker.
Okay. I did not know that. Okay. All right, let's move on to that question that I ask everyone, because it's been 2020 and it's been 2020 in America, and especially it's been 2020 for us, for people that look like us. And you guys have the added bonus of being in the leadership where you're responsible for everyone else's 2020. So what are you doing for self-care? Like, how are you releasing? And that question everyone has to answer. Even if it's just one thing that you do for self-care?
I'll start and get it out the way. Uh, Listening to a lot of music is one of those things for me. And I try to exercise. There's been a lot of push for mindfulness training. Actually, I just completed one today as we're training leaders to really take this in, because people have Zoom fatigue. People have, like, we're doing remote learning and teachers are stressed out, administrators are stressed out. So for me, it's music and trying to exercise as much as possible.
For me, it's probably I think I've been nurturing the spirit a little bit more. So, as long as I have a healthy mind, I'm connected to God spiritually, I feel like that gives me the foundation to deal with the craziness that we're seeing all around us. And so I've been reading the Bible more. I've been going to and participating in different activities with the church more, and so that's been helpful. My next step is to begin to engage with other couples and things like Bible study and things of that nature. So that's what I consider self-care. Now, I'm promising my wife a calendar for a very long time, right? It's like 10 years now. So eventually I'm going to have to get in shape and really, realize what I have in my mind. I got to figure out a way to, to work out and to get in the type of shape that I know I need to be in. And I know that that's going to help me mentally as well, and emotionally, as being in the best shape. But for now, just making sure that I'm mentally and emotionally and spiritually fit has been the best self-care that I've engaged in. And then obviously spending time with family is always very rejuvenating.
I would say for me, right now I'm struggling with that. But over the summer, one of the things that we did was to take one day a week that we spent as a family And we live where I live, it's the recreation capital of Massachusetts. So there are waterfalls everywhere, wonderful hikes everywhere. And the kids went to circus school. So it was nice to see them do all of these uh, things in the air. I think I've posted some on Facebook. Judy, you may have seen. Oh yeah, it's the trapeze. They did trapeze and things like that. So it was really nice to spend some time as a family and to go get ice cream and to go um, uh, uh, tubing down the river and to just like lie down and you just go down the river and doing things like that. So it was a lot of fun. I need to get back to that.
Okay. I'm sitting here, I'm like, wait, circus school? Where is that? But
Yeah.
now that you mentioned the activities, it makes more sense. But I was like, wait, circus school?
Yeah. We did a little bit of whitewater rafting too, because we have that where we live. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, good stuff.
So for me, it was very hard in the beginning, because of my field and, just concentrating on helping those small businesses with those PPP loans, right? 24/7 up till 2 o'clock in the morning, right at home, trying to, get these apps done. But now, it's been reading, trying to exercise. When I say trying, right, I have a Bowflex. I could look at it right now, trying to get there. Trying. And just taking, just just expanding my mind. Last on my vacation 2 weeks ago, I participated in mental first aid, training. So now I'm certified in adult mental first aid, right? And we spoke about self-care, and I'm like, man, hello, I need to, take care of me. So I'm working on that and spending more time with my family and just time management, right? But playing the Nintendo Switch has been great too, with my daughter and with my husband. So, but I'm still working on that. It's very hard. So I don't want to say that I'm a workaholic, but I need to take time for myself, and it's difficult. So I'm learning and I'm trying my best.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Before I close out, I want to say hi to a couple people. It's been a bit of a quiet chat, but I said hi to Anik, Imani, hi, Francisca, Michelle. Michelle was laughing at you. James, Michelle was laughing at you a little bit when you were talking about the calendar. Graylin, Mac, let's see who else. Genevieve, hi, and Didier, and all the other quiet people. I see that we've had people coming in and out, but they haven't really said anything. So if you didn't say anything, I still appreciate you. I'm still glad you came through. And yeah, virtual hi or mental hi, since I don't know your name to say hi to you specifically. So thank you for stopping in. And to you guys, thank you so very, very much for taking the time. I know it's the end of the day. So thank you so much for taking the time and to come.
Go vote if you haven't done so already.
Oh yeah, that is true. Yes, election is going on right now. So if you haven't already done so, please take a moment and like yesterday I posted a picture that saying that I voted while I was waiting for the bridge to come down. And I literally did. I just come from the post office and the bridge was coming up and I was like, oh, I got time. It wasn't like I had somewhere else to go. And I literally did it in that time it took for the bridge to come down. So it is that easy. It's that quick. So if you haven't done it, please do it. And thank you guys so very much for coming through and hanging out with us for a whole long time, actually. All right. Anything else?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
For the opportunity.
All right. Cool.
And great meeting everybody. I hope to get to connect.
Awesome. Awesome. And so that's gonna be all we have for today. Good morning, world. Have an awesome day.